The following message was preached at the pulpit of the North Platte Baptist Church during the Midwest Regional Bus Conference.
I'm a little bit, honestly, I'm a little bit embarrassed to talk about the topic, right? Reproducing yourself in a small church, and we don't have, if you would, numerically. And we know what we're talking about. That we're not insecure here. We're not running around. You know, well, how many you run? That means you're more important, and if you have less or not. But we're also we're realists in the sense that we understand. And we like the idea of church. Hey, 300, 400, 500. Man, that'd be like a mega church these days, the way things are. And so when we say little church, we're not being derogatory at all. We're just being realists in the fact that, hey, man, I've got these families and this ministry, and so I'm not embarrassed about the little church part. I'm embarrassed about the part that, hey, reproducing myself. I mean, if I reproduce me, man, we're in trouble. All right, we're in trouble. I'd also say that if I could just dovetail. And I'm really not trying to kiss up to Brother Reeves, but if I could just dovetail what he said, a big part of reproducing yourself is they have to, they have to come. I mean, I can't work with anybody who doesn't come. You know that. You go soul winning, you lead them to Christ, and look, and I'm big on going to pick them up. I mean, when we started the bus, my first Sunday, April 1st, 2001, we started from scratch. We didn't have anybody. The Lord just kind of, put in our heart the area just outside of Baltimore City, and I had worked in that area. I'm from Southern Maryland, which is near Washington, D.C., and served in my father-in-law's church for years there in Southern Maryland, and Baltimore was about an hour and a half north of where we're at, and completely different culture in Maryland. Where I was a little more country-ish. I lived in the ghetto. But it was country-ish, and then real city like Washington, D.C., metropolitan kind of a political federal government, kind of a thing. And then Baltimore is filled with transplants from Kentucky, West Virginia, the old steel mills. If any of you have ever been to Hammond, that's what Baltimore looks like. It's old steel mills that have been shut down and decrepit, but very liberal, very affluent. We're right outside of Annapolis, and completely different culture. But we went there and just started knocking doors. My wife and I, we kind of agreed together, asking the Lord, set a date. It got pushed out. It got pushed out because Brother House died, and I wanted to go to his funeral. And we were supposed to start in March. He died in February, and everything just kind of got pushed out. And we went, and the first Sunday we went and I picked people up. I picked people up in a little ghetto area that we had led some people to Christ, and we picked them up. Picked them up in my Ford Thunderbird. That's what I had. And so it was, 2-door, but when we piled them in the seat, picked up Devadrian, picked up his sister DeAndrea. You can understand, right? And picked up Devadrian, DeAndrea, and it was April. It was warm, and Devadrian had a hat on with aluminum foil underneath the hat. I mean, I'm telling you, he was that crazy, all right? I didn't know that. I just thought he loved Jesus, man. He was so excited. We had come by the day before, but we picked him up, and then we picked up a lady and her 2 kids that day. So we picked up 5 in the Thunderbird, and then I took them home in the Tempo. That's my wife's 4-door car, and we took them home. And so we've been picking up people for church, and it's just that's bus ministry. I mean, pack out a station wagon like the old church did for my mom. I mean, pick your converts up. I'm for that. That was the whole point of why I got off on that tangent, went down that rabbit trail. That's why I told all that story, was to say, hey, I'm for, but you can go pick them up and bring them, but hey, they got to answer the door when you go pick them up. They got to come. All right? So if you're going to reproduce anybody, you got to have somebody to reproduce. You know what I mean? If you're going to work in someone, train somebody, then they got to be there, so they got to show back up. And if they don't show back up, then I don't have anybody to work with. right? And so then I got to stay out there. This is why in 2 Timothy chapter 4, 2 Timothy chapter 4, you're going down the list there, preach the word, be instant in season, out of season, and, the time's going to come will not endure sound doctrine, and, they're going to come, but you're going to preach it, man, and some of them are going, amen, and then others, they're going to go, oh my, and they're going to be there for a little while, and then they're going to leave, and they're going to go, and he said it's going to get worse and worse, Timothy, as you go along, because, hey, they're not going to endure it. They're not going to endure it. And then he goes in, I believe it's verse 5, and says, hey, but do the work of an evangelist. And what is the work? The work. Well, I ask evangelists this all the time. What's your work? What is the work of an evangelist? Well, I believe, brother, that my job is to, encourage pastors, and I'm, and listen, I don't need a sheepdog. I don't need a sheepdog. I need you to come to town here and win some people to Christ and take my folks out, win them to Christ, and, help me train some of these soul winners so that we can do. That's the work. And he's telling Timothy, look, you're the pastor of that church, Timothy. You got to preach the word. You're going to have to be strong and sound doctrine and in season and out of season. And he goes, but hey, understand, Timothy, they ain't going to take it. And so you're going to have to go back out there and win some more people and get them in. And little by little, that's how you do it. You're going to bring them in, you're going to chase them out. You're going to bring them in, you're going to chase them out. But when after a while, you look around, hey, some of these people stayed. And guess what? They're reproducing. They're reproducing. So the overall concept, you get. That's just how it is. And it's just time, you just stick at it, stick at it. The second thing I would say is that you can't reproduce anybody if you don't stay. You can't stay. It's amazing when Brother Reed, I didn't want to teach on this subject. I would have rather taught something else, how to stay small and not grow a church. That would have been easy for me to teach on. I've got plenty of experience. But when he did, it's amazing because I started a church from scratch. And I'm just trying to be, and because I have a fairly decent personality, and I'm friendly and I like to laugh and carry on, and I'm very transparent. I mean, I'm just tell you the truth. What you see is what you get, and I wear these cufflinks to bed. What I'm saying, I cut the grass in them. All right, I'm fancy all the time. That's how I am. And Brother Ballard asked me last night on the way back to the hotel, Brother Arcand, can I ask you about those cufflinks? Are those cufflinks, are they more comfortable? And, he goes, because, I've never had cufflinks like that. And I thought maybe those shirts are better. Am I missing out on something? I said, no, Brother Ballard, they're not. They're not more comfortable. I said, they're actually a pain in the backside if you're going to win anybody to Christ and baptize your converts on a weekly basis like we do. I said, they're a pain. I said, they're just showy. He said, what? I said, they're just showy. We try to just hold our arm up just right. Do I got your attention? See, that's what they are. And I said, I like it, though. I like being showy. I like hearing about the high priest in the Old Testament that's got the jewels, the 12 jewels. And, you know what I mean? I've got Bible for what I do. All right? That's what the preacher just told me. But no, they're just showy, Brother Ballard. I'm just being a bit pretentious, all right? But it makes me feel better and I have more confidence about it. But because I'm transparent like that, a lot of preachers will call and fellas who are starting churches from scratch and people, and they'll call me. Because a lot of guys have never really started a church from scratch. That's not belittling. Look, if I could take a church over and have a little something to start with, man, that'd be good too. I'm for it, okay? I'm just saying, if you've never started from scratch, and you've got nothing, no start, no building, where did you get a building? How do you get a building? Did you rent a hotel? Did you go to a library? Did you start your church in a nursing home? How did you get that started? And so I had a lot of preachers will call me, not because I'm famous or I have anything, but because I'm accessible and real and just authentic with them. And the same week. The same week, your son, I said, what is there a direction that preacher wants me to go on that Tuesday? And he said, let me talk to preacher about it. He told me what he wanted. And the day before, a younger preacher had called. He's been pastoring. He started a church probably about 4 years ago. He's doing a great job. But he called and asked the same question. How do you turn out a Kyle? And Kyle's a wonderful guy. He's not near as good as y'all think he is, but he's a wonderful guy, and he can sing. And Kyle came to my church, it's about like this little boy over here with the coffee in his hand. He's probably drinking coffee back then too. And but Kyle was 8 years old, in flip-flops, shorts, and a tank top when he came to church that first time. And he's just a little boy, just a little bratty, only child kind of boy, and it annoyed us, He was annoying. You're like, shut up, Kyle. Okay? Children to be seen, not heard. Right? But Kyle was the star because he was the only child, and he was the apple of his grandma's eyes, and all of that kind of stuff. And Grandma had a stroke, and Kyle called 911 when Grandma had a stroke, right? And did the little 911 thing and got the ambulance there. Of course, now Kyle's her angel. I mean, we had to hear about this stuff for years. I hated Kyle in my church for years. I'm just telling you how to reproduce yourself. Just get real annoyed and mad and smack them away and say, bless God. And if they keep coming back, you got something to work with, all right? And I'm teasing a little bit about it, but he's excellent. And that's the fella had asked me, say, how do you turn out a Kyle? And then, of course, your son said, hey, preacher, would like for you maybe speak on, like, how do you kind of reproduce yourself in a small church? How does that work? Are there some practical things? And look, and I would ask the same question. I have looked at that, right? And boy, I want that. I wanted some of that. And then I got to thinking, and there's another young man the next day. So, one day, I guess, I don't know, let's just make up the days. Tuesday, the young church planner asked me. The next day, Brother David Reeves says, hey, preacher would like for you to teach such. And then the third day, I'm talking to another church planner or a fellow who's doing revitalization. Church was about ready to close the doors, and he took the church, and he's got it going again. And I had led his wife to Christ when I was an assistant pastor on a Sunday morning, and got her in the baptistry. And I went back to him, and I said, hey man, how about you, buddy? Man, your girlfriend just got saved this morning, man. Have you ever trusted Christ? And we're trying to keep the piano playing so we can get it. And he's, oh no, I'm saved, man. I asked Jesus saved me a long time ago. I said, okay, man. Well, have you ever been baptized? And he says, no, I'm good. I said, okay, well, man, your girlfriend, she got saved and she's getting baptized now. Are you scared? And he went, she is? And I said, yeah, man, she's excited, man. She's obeying the Lord. You want to obey the Lord, right? Like Brother Scribe, you want to obey the Lord, don't you? Just get baptized one time, would you? Just one time. And so he got baptized that morning, and they've been serving God for 25 years now. And I love him, Jason. His daughter and my daughter go to Bible college together, and he's a great guy. He's younger than me, and he loves me, looks up to me like, because I led his wife to Christ, and he always gives me credit. And I'm thinking, God, Jesus saved her, man. I didn't. The Lord did. But hey, how do you get somebody like Kyle to turn out? And I flipped the question on him because I literally had been, hey, now for 2 days I'm thinking about it. I flipped the question. I said, I don't know. Why don't you tell me, Jason, how did preacher turn you out? My father-in-law. Because I left soon after Jason got baptized as wife, and then later they got married about a year or two later. My wife played in their thing, but we were leaving to get prepped to start our church. And so I said, how did preacher turn you out? I don't know. I mean, I guess he just yelled at me a lot. Because that's how my father-in-law operated, man. You'll be here at such and such a time, and you will wear a shirt and tie. And showed up to pick up Jason one day to go soul winning. And Jason came out of the house, and they were in a hurry. I mean, they were running behind. They had already picked up one other young man, and they were picking Jason up. I wasn't there. Jason went to get in the car, and he had a pullover shirt with a collar on it, like a bandline pullover shirt. And he said, "Hey, where's your tie at?" And Jason, I don't know. It's 100 degrees out. Man, it was like in August down there, and it gets hot. And preacher said, "Oh no, because he wasn't at his house when he picked him up." And he said, "Get in." And they ran by the church, and my father-in-law made him put a tie on the bandline shirt. Now listen to me. This will make you a recovering fundamentalist. I'll just tell you that. Okay. This is the stuff that'll make you. I mean, this is the stuff. I'm telling you. He put a tie on, a pullover bandline shirt with a little collar, and made him go soul winning with him that day. And this is how bad my father-in-law is. He goes, "You're not going to go with me as my partner looking stupid like that. You'll go across the street with the other young man, and y'all look over here, and I'll do this side." And Jason said, I'm going to tell you something, Brother Paul. And you can call me Brother Paul if you want to. Just don't call me Brother Little Paul, all right? And I said, and he says, and let me tell you something, Brother Paul. I never went to church without a button-up shirt and a tie on ever again. He goes, I won't. He goes, I barely leave my house without a shirt and tie on today, right? We're joking, right? We're teasing about it. But he says, man, I don't. And he doesn't, okay? Jason, I don't know. He's probably, 36, 37. I don't know how old he is, but he's younger than me. And we just started talking about some things that went on. And I said, well, that's how you turn out a Kyle. I said, that's how you reproduce a Kyle. I said, why did you keep coming back, Jason? Because this is what we all want to know. How in the world did my father-in-law get away with treating me like trash? How did he get away with treating my brother-in-law, Brother James Tester, who's a pastor in Greensboro, North Carolina, and if you want a soul-winning, producing, nobody knows him because he doesn't want you to know him. Because and I'm telling you this, I start crying. I think about Brother Tester. He hit, hands down, Brother Ballard, I'm just telling you, you've been around, you've seen, hands down, there is no greater soul-winning pastor than Brother James Tester. He worked for Dr. Gray in Longview, Texas, produced about 1,800 converts and baptisms a year when he was there. He's in Greensboro, North Carolina, producing every single week of the world. Soul-winning pastor. I mean, he himself, driving the bus, doing whatever, just get the job done. And is so disgusted with independent fundamental Baptists across the board. He just said, look, I got my head down. I'm doing what I was taught to do. I don't care. And I said, brother, I said, I get that. I get that. I get it. And man, and that's right. That's the right thing to do. I can't help it. I love people. I want to be around the men. I said, I get that. I said, but man, we need you, Brother Chip. We need men like you. We need men who are still tearing it up. They're still going after it. They're still getting it done. Nah, because he doesn't care. And so I just put a plug in there. But he's a little older than me, and he was a little pre-me. But my father-in-law turned him out. And then my father-in-law turned me out. My father-in-law turned out a bunch of, nobody knows my father-in-law. It was a little church we came up in. And we started thinking, how did you do that? And listen, and it's not because he was all, nice and sweet. And I'm telling you, he was rough. He was rough. And we came up on. And so then I said, well, Jason, and we went through it. And he told me all the stories, horror stories and all of that. Let me just give you a couple quick verses so we can kind of be somewhat spiritual about it. Okay? I'm just going to kind of like paraphrase, misquote the first one because it just hit me. Daniel chapter 1, verse 8, Daniel purposed in his heart, right? Daniel purposed in his heart. So number one, we just need to understand we need to be intentional. Amen. Okay? Intentional. Now that's a buzzword in the liberal leadership kind of, concept. But intentionality is a good word, okay? Just because, it might be a buzzword out there. Don't tag me, okay? I really, what I'm just trying to say is it's purposeful, okay? That's the biblical term. Do it on purpose, okay? So number one, get it in your mind. Hey, I'm going to intentionally try to reproduce and turn people out and point people toward, hey, living for God. Man, I mean, my whole message, and this is why I'm rambling and talking like this, he just preached the entire thing. I got nothing to tell you now, all right? He just told you what it is and how to do it, right? Okay? But be intentional, all right? And then I would just say this, is a quick little story. And it relates, but it's kind of a worldly story. But back in 2004, it happened in 2020 too, 20 as well. But in 2004, the fastest at that time, the fastest track team was the United States track team. Okay, and I am not for women's sports whatsoever. All right, and he said, well, why are you using the illustration? Because it works. Okay, and when it works, I'll use it. And but. I wouldn't watch it, but I read the story, and I remember it from back then in 2004. There was the fastest ladies running team in the world. I mean, each leg of this 400-meter relay, each one that was running their part, they were like the top four fastest runners in the world. and they were on track to set records all through that thing, and they were winning this one of the main track meets that was going to, gold, bronze. They were going to win this thing, and it was the baton. Right, it was a relay, and they had to exchange the baton. Right, one runner, the second runner. Hey, fourth, now they're in it. They're in the lead, and they messed up the baton exchange. And the runner, you know how it works. They're running and they're coming and they're getting ready to hand off the baton to the next runner who's there. They see them coming, and they got this little 20-meter, little transition. Got this little transition time that comes. They got this little, and so they start to run, and the other one is running, and they got to catch, and right then they drop the baton. Now you can pick it up and run, but it's over. It's over, because that Jamaican team was like, hey, they were coming in their time, and the next team, and it was all lost. They were all the top stars of the world, but it was blown in the transition. It was blown in the handoff of the baton. All right? Now, you've heard it. Brother Howells preached a story about passing the baton out of Hebrews chapter 12. I've preached it. I was going to preach it this morning, but it doesn't make sense to do so now. But in Hebrews chapter 12, right, we're compassed by so great a cloud of witnesses, right? Let's run the race, lay aside the weight, and it so easily beset us. Let's run the race with patience that's set before us, And then we use that little verse to springtail into, this topical idea of passing the baton. But this is what we're talking about. We're talking about passing the faith. We're talking about handing over, if you would, the church to the next generation. We're talking about reproducing ourselves. And what do we do? Well, listen, I just tell this, the baton in that particular relay, and there is, listen, I believe the concept is there in Hebrews 12, and throughout other places in Scripture, it's there. I'll show you another one in a moment. But the idea is the baton that starts the race is what's got to finish and cross the finish line. It's really not about the runner that goes across the finish line. It's the baton that's got to go across the finish line. And these batons that they're using now have got a timer on it. And the baton, has got to go through the finish line. And can I just say to you, we start out with this Bible. It matters that this Bible is what hands down to the next generation. And then that Bible gets handed down to the next generation. And this Bible, it is salvation by grace plus nothing, right? Minus nothing, plus nothing, right? I mean, they gotta, no conviction, no conversion. It's not just some pie in the sky who wants Jesus today, put your name on this card. No, listen, you're gonna die and go to hell without Christ. You better realize that. It's real easy to get saved. Believe on Jesus. Just believe on him and you can be saved. Okay? Plus nothing, minus nothing. Let's get it all in there. Death, burial, resurrection. That's got to be passed down. Soul winning, door to door, person to person, right? I mean, people get saved. Person to person, aggressive, right? Confrontational. You never hear that word anymore. Confrontational. So we had a graduate from Ambassador Baptist College out of North Carolina, came to our church years ago. She was teaching a Christian school that didn't have a church. That doesn't seem possible to me, right? But she came to our church, and I'm sorry, it didn't have a church. But she was not allowed to go to any of the churches that had Christian schools. That particular Christian school that she was working for, that's why I wouldn't want to come from a Bible college that wasn't connected to a church to begin with. And so she came to our church, and she started coming, man, and she was getting excited about, of course, we're going soul winning every week, we're loading up in the soul winning van and going out soul winning. So she gets in the van to go soul winning with us, and man, scared to death. Now listen to me, graduated, masters, right? So that's what, 5 years of college? I'm not good at math, but masters, I mean, that'd have been like 12 years for me, I guess. But she got there, and so 5 years of college, and she's been teaching at this Christian school for, 6, 8 months, and then comes to our church, and she goes out soul winning with us. And man, she was scared to death in the soul winning van. And she was telling one of the other lady soul winners, she's, boy, so how is this going to go down? I mean, are we, confrontational soul winning? I mean, like she thought we were getting ready to be like a real, or we were going to have them big placards out there, and we were going to run up into people's faces, and turn it back, you're gonna die, and because she didn't see any of our placards, our big posters, or any of that. No, Jesus doing push-ups with the cross on his back. She didn't see any of that. She, what are we doing, man? I mean, this guy's crazy. And man, and they said, no, we're just going to talk to people. And she said, what do you mean? She said, like witnessing. She goes, huh? People don't use the word anymore, right? Confrontational. It just means talking to people. It just means confronting people with the truth, right? Hey, that's got to be passed down. The bus is being passed down. I'm talking about the baton, okay? All these things I'm giving you is a representation of, hey, that's what we're trying to get down. So what we're trying to get into a Kyle, what we're trying to get into an Aaron Dempsey at my church, what we're trying to get into a Stacey Evans at my church, a Jennifer Kingsland at my church, what we're trying to get into these Gabby Thompson. These were all young people that all came up through Kyle's youth group and stuff. They're all still in my church. 29, 27, 28, 32, 33. They've been with me. Kyle's been with 21, Stacy's been with me 21, Jennifer's been with me 15, Gabby's been with me about 12. They've been with me for years now, and they've come up, and they're still going. I say, well, how does this happen? Now look, of course, I got my own daughter, right? Got my deacon's kids, they're in there, but the idea is that I'm trying to get the faith. That's what's important, right? So the baton, we've got to make sure we have the baton. Okay, here's what the Bible says. Proverbs, just jot it down, okay, because I don't have time to turn to it. And Proverbs in Proverbs 23:26. Okay, this is the key. This is the key. This is the key to reproducing yourself in a small church, little church, big church, personal relationship, parents turning out kids. Let me tell you something. This verse is why. What is it? Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and he's always not depart from it. You ever had anybody come to your office and say, preacher, it didn't work. It didn't work. Proverbs 22, preacher, we've been here 18 years. I did every single thing you told me to do. It didn't work. It worked for yours. Well, look, I got preachers' kids and preachers' friends whose kids haven't turned out yet. And please don't look at my daughter right now. She's 19. Don't look at her. It ain't over, Jack. It's not over, man. Let's see how the grandkids are turning out, all right? It ain't over yet. I've got a lot of preacher friends who go, preacher, just stay on your face, man. Beg God for grace and do what you're supposed to do, okay? Be careful. All right? But I believe this may be key. Proverbs 23:26 says, my son, give me thine heart, and let thine eyes observe my ways. Give me thine heart, right? Give me your heart, and let thine eyes observe my ways. Here's the key. Here's the key. We can't just say it. We can't just talk it. He didn't say, simply hear my words. I love that this verse is here. Puts pressure on me. Right? Old Brother Howells, a sermon, 4 calls to soul winning, right? And you got that inward call, that inward pressure, the pressure of the great cloud of witnesses from above, pressure from above, the call from above, right? The rich man burning in hell, others that have died and gone to hell, man. Hey, send Lazarus. If you can't give me water, then send them to my brothers and warn them the call from hell, the pressure. There's pressure from beneath. There's pressure from above. There's pressure from the world. Hey, and there's pressure. Hey, listen, this is pressure. Yeah. This is pressure. The pressure here. My son, give me thine heart and let thine eyes observe my ways. Listen, hey, you know the old saying, right? Our talk talks and our walk talks. But our walk talks louder than our talk talks. That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't original, but man, I use it a lot like I wrote it. Say it at my church all the time. And I'm not saying it just to get them to do right. I'm saying it to keep me doing right. If I don't go soul winning, my people ain't going to go soul winning. If I don't promote the bus ministry, if I don't, show up on a bus route occasionally, if I don't get on the bus occasionally, I can't run the bus all the time. Some preachers do. Some, however you want to do it. This is for me, but I'm going to be there. I'm going to run that bus meeting at times. I told Kyle, hey, I'm hosting a bus meeting this last month. I want to stay in it. I'm in it. All right. I'm in everything that's going on. And so I got to walk the walk. 2 Timothy 2:2, of course, commit thou to faithful men who shall be able to teach others also. Okay, so the faithful. So first I identify who I can influence. How do I identify who I can influence? Well, they identify themselves. They become disciples. They're coming, right? I can't just pick some, crackhead down the street and say, man, I'm going to reproduce myself in him. Okay? I got to get him saved first. The Lord saves him, but you know what I'm trying to say. I got to get him saved. I got to get him baptized, and then I got to teach him to observe all things. I can't teach him if he's not here. Right. Now I need to go follow up on him and try to get him to come. And he gets in there, and they're sticking around. Well, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And then I ask Kyle. I'll say, Kyle, what did I do? What did I do? What are some things that I did to reproduce you? Everybody thinks you're so great. Just don't forget, buddy, you ain't that great. You're a little overweight. You're getting old. You got gray coming inside of your hair, man. You're wearing out fast, Kyle. I don't know if you got much time left. You got to keep him humble, man. He's a good boy. He's very talented, very gifted, very gifted. Baseball scholarships and everything. And Kyle had some missteps. He went to a very exclusive, like Ivy League school, and when he first graduated, they took him baseball scholarships, all this kind of stuff. It's like $40,000 a half a semester to go there. It was big time, exclusive. Governors, congressmen, senators, one of them kind of schools. It was the all men's school, and then the all ladies school was down the street, and they were always hooking up, and it was a horrible place. But in the world's eyes, it was very exclusive, and these were very well mannered, very exclusive kind of people. And then on Friday nights, Kyle was Skyping. I remember that's how long ago it was. He was Skyping his preacher and preacher's wife. Bloop, 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 bloop. It's 8 o'clock on a Friday night. Like, what is that, man? I don't know. What do you do? Hit that button. I don't know how to work it. Boop, boop. Cell phone. Hey, what's up, Kyle? What's going on? Could you turn on your computer? It is on. Was that you? Yeah, hit that little thing at the bottom, we boom, pop up. Hey, look, it's Kyle. He's on the video. Look at that. Amber, come here, there's Kyle. Hey, well, Kyle, you can't be looking at my house. That's not right. I got to clean my kitchen. Take that out of here, Paul. Oh, I know. Y'all don't ever live like that. I got it. Okay, you got it together. Okay, you're not like that. Hey, listen to me. I don't believe your Twitter tweets and your Facebook pictures, all right? I know what real life's like. That's why I'm not on Twitter that much, because my wife won't let me. And so we'd get him up, and there he was. He was there in a big, white cinder block, behind the wall there. And Kyle, what are you doing, man? It's 8 o'clock Friday night. You're at one of the most exclusive, Ivy League type colleges there are. What's going on? What's everybody doing? I'm just doing my laundry. We have a game in the morning, because he was big into baseball. We have a game in the morning. I said, well, where's the rest of the team and stuff at? They're out doing something. This is Friday after Friday. He'd call in on a Tuesday sometimes. And then he came home for a break, and he came to my office, and he's all teared up, and he said, preacher, I got to talk to you. I said, well, what about, Kyle? What's going on? What's happening? This school's wicked. They're out getting drunk and partying. It's all anybody talks about. Sex, drugs. It's terrible. I can't take it. I said, really? That's surprising to me. Because they didn't ask a lot of counsel before they made the decision to go. His dad's my head usher. They're the best of the best kind of people. And I said, well, man, Kyle, you don't understand. We got so much money in it, preacher. There's so much, and we spent so much money and borrowed so much money. And, even with the scholarship kind of stuff, I said, okay. Your mom and dad love you, Kyle, and God doesn't want you to be there. You should have asked me about this before you went. And he got out. He came home. He didn't go off to some Bible college. He came home and he went to the University of Maryland, but he was in his church. He was in his church. And over a period of time, man, he was back in, man. He was back in like it never been. I say that to just tell you that, hey, he's made some choices. And from that minute on, I said, Kyle, what we've done? He said, well, one, you invested in me financially, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. He said, you helped pay for trips for us to go to youth conferences, to go to camps, we call them summer fun days. The kids call them summer dumb days. But we would just take our kids to the church. Mrs. Arcand, my wife and I, we took our kids out and we would just take them places. Because, I didn't like most of the camps that were available. I didn't like most of the youth conferences that were available. So we just made our own. And so we would just go do those things. We would go do it. I help with that. I'd pick them up to go soul winning with me in the middle of the week. Hey, Kyle, man, what are you doing tomorrow? Well, whatever. I said, hey, listen, come down to church, man. We need to hang a baptistry curtain up in the baptistry wall, man. Come help me do that. And we would do those things. He said you were persistent and perseverance. Now, I don't even know what these words mean, but he went to college, okay? Persistent and perseverance. You stayed patient, but purposed. You practiced what you preached. He says you're still preaching and living it the same way in the same book 20 years later. Okay? I'm just telling you. He says it takes 20 years for an 8-year-old to develop into a serving, leading, grown man. Takes time. Takes time. Listen, remember, I'm answering a young church planner. I'm speaking on a subject that the experienced pastor asked me to speak on, and then I'm talking to a young church planter answering the question, and so I have to tell him, and I have to tell you, it takes time. You don't turn somebody out in 6 months. They don't just do everything you say one after the other, one step, this, that, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. No, sometimes it's, oh boy, that was dumb. But you don't kill them. You can't have them if you kill them. He said, you allowed me to make some mistakes. He said, you gave me a leash of grace. He says, in different situations here, different ways that it was. He said, when you allowed me to start leading, you allowed me to make some decisions knowing, and I always knew that you would have my back, even if I made the wrong decision, which he does often. He says it was just practical, hands-on mentoring. You taught me how to go soul winning. You taught me how to study the Bible. You taught me how to write an outline. And you know what? Someone else taught me how to write an outline. And I fold my little paper in the Bible and paper clip it in there. And I like to use gold paper clips, bless God. Just put them in there. So it's the Word of God, man. It's worth investing doing that. We'll just write. No. Hey, listen to me. Just hey. And then, hey, listen. He said, friendly. He said, you've always been friendly, joyful. He says, there's joy and fun in serving Jesus. You and Mrs. Arcand have always just had a fun carrying on. It's because it is fun serving God. And that's why we're in it. Well, why don't we share that with our people? Yeah. He's cracking jokes. He goes, no matter what it is, whether you're changing the lights, doing a ladies' meeting, whatever it is, man, we just make it fun, right? That's really what it is. That's how you do it. That's how, And then I'll just say this. I'd rattle off a bunch of names and folks are there. I could also rattle out a whole lot more that aren't. There's only a few at the cross. Remember, what did Jesus say in John 6? Was it John 6:66 or something? 6:66? I'm not one of those preachers, okay? But it's somewhere over there in John 6 where he said, will ye also go away? That's what happens. So you just stay patient and just stay going at it, and they'll be there.